Alright, now first of all, why am I reviewing this movie? Two reasons. So I believe that in our search for human happiness, it can help to be brutally aware of all extremes and all depths of human experience, whether that be extremely positive or extremely negative. And if you are feeling a little bit sorry for yourself, or you feel like you've got it bad and maybe you've got a little bit of a victim mentality going on, which we all do sometimes, it can be helpful to sometimes put ourselves in front of the harsh reality of the world, which is that 99% of the time you don't have it bad. There are people who have it a lot worse than you, and so being aware of that and being confronted with that, and sometimes confronting yourself with that, can just really help to put your own life and problems into perspective. And it doesn't mean that you don't have problems, and it doesn't mean that your life isn't hard, because everyone has their struggles, everyone has their challenges, but a healthy dose of perspective, let's say, can go a long way. So that's reason number one. Reason number two is, as an artist myself, and as someone who creates every single day, and whose main sense of fulfillment in life comes from creating, as an artist, inspiration can be sourced from all around. It can be sourced from everyday life. It can be sourced from so many things, but there are few sources of inspiration of a higher quality than good cinema, good music, just good art in general. It's like especially a good movie. It's a concentration of experience. It's like a strong dose of inspiration and a concentrated form. So watching a good movie can go a long way in terms of finding inspiration as an artist, or a writer, or whatever. Just a human who's looking for ideas, a human who's looking for food for thought. It can be as simple as that. So those are the two big reasons for why I watch this movie, and why I watch movies like Come and See in general, because I have a very big fascination for extreme cinema and movies that are tough to sit through, and it's like I was saying, it's like a concentration. It's like a concentration of experience, of human experience, of storytelling, of ideas, of emotions, of symbolism, of striking imagery. It's like a concentration of all of those things, sometimes in their most brutal form, in a couple of hours, and you can just sit down and absorb that in a couple of hours. And so, in my opinion, that can go a long way in many directions. So this is the review that I wrote, that's on IMDb for the movie, and I'm going to read it out because it's as succinct as I managed to get after watching this intense movie. Okay, so this tremendous dive into human misery is carried by an absolutely staggering performance by young lead actor Aleksei Kravchenko. Once the slow start of this film has carefully wound you along, its steadily increasing pace methodically cuts away at your spirit, chasing and wearing you down along with its damaged protagonist. As a fan of horror movies and a connoisseur of extreme cinema, I can confidently state that there are few rivals to the horror of this film, due to its skillfully frightening reproduction of real human history, and an array of impeccable performances from across the entire cast. I found that I was having to remind myself I was watching a movie 3/4 of the way through. And I breathed somewhat of a relieved sigh after the final sequence ended. The final sequence, by the way, is brilliant. If you like films that are tough to watch, sit yourself down and add this one to the list. So, what more can I say? I mean, to be completely honest, that's unquestionably, for me, one of the best performances I've ever seen in any movie. And I've, like most people nowadays, I've seen, my fair share of movies. I've seen a lot of the great movies, a lot of the top 100, so to speak, greatest movies of all time or whatever, the big epics, all the big names, I've seen a lot of those, so I have a pretty solid frame of reference when it comes to cinema. I'm no expert, but I can definitely say that lead actor in Come and See is really something, and it really says a lot more that he's younger in that movie. I mean, obviously this is 1985 when the movie came out, when it was shot, so he's a lot older now, but back when he played in that movie, his performance, it's just, as a kid, I mean, he must be, I don't know how old he was, when they shot it, but he must have been maybe 16, I'm guessing, maybe 14 even. So he's pretty young, but his performance is just one of the best I've ever seen in any movie, and it's just really striking. And extremely convincing, and yeah, I mean, if you call yourself a serious war movie fan or even horror movie fan, I mean, it's not traditionally classed as a horror movie because it's it's like a war movie technically, and it's based in history and historical events, Second World War, but it's intense, man. Like it's pretty tough to sit through. But at the same time, it grips you and it just strings you along, and it's, especially after you reach sort of halfway through the movie, and it just really, really picks up, and it just really just keeps amping up the tension, I guess, and the horror as it ramps up from the halfway point onwards of the movie. You just really become kind of lost in it. I mean, you just really you're there, you're in there, and for me that's quite hard to achieve for a movie. Like when I'm watching movies, it's actually not really often the case that I'm actually captivated to that point, that I'm really in there. So it's a pretty damn good film. So yeah, like I was saying, if you consider yourself a war movie, if you like war movies or you like horror movies, or you like movies that are tough to sit through, I mean, there's a lot of people out there who have the same sort of train of thought that I do in terms of movies that appeal. Extreme cinema, or just difficult movies, or movies that treat difficult subjects with uncompromising content, then if that's for you, you should definitely give it a watch, because it's a good one.